So one thing I learned a lot is, well, I've noticed sometimes I always lean in these videos, don't I? Yeah. So one of the things that I've come to realize over the years is that, and I made this mistake, and I think a lot of people in the church make this mistake, and it's not necessarily a matter of right or wrong per se, right? It's just something, it just is what it is. Some of you have probably heard this saying going around recently that the Bible was written for us, but it wasn't written to us. Well, it's true. There's a lot of truth to that. And one thing I realized along the way is that, when I look at the Bible, I'm looking at it through modern Western lenses. And it's important to realize that, because then I can see the forest and the trees. And one thing that, from my perspective, one thing that the modern Western world does is that from birth, we are programmed to look at things in a very wooden fashion, right? I believe the Western world looks at things very hyper-literally. And that translates to us. I'm sure most of us are smart enough to know that people who wrote scriptures, 2,000 to 3,500 years ago, they didn't share the same worldview. They weren't modern Westerners. They had a far more supernatural worldview. They just saw the world in a much different fashion than we do today. So when we look at a lot of things, look at a lot of things in the Bible, like the creation account, and the long day in the book of Joshua, and I'm not here to argue whether we should take these things literal or not. I just think it's important to realize that is oftentimes what we're doing. And that is a Western perspective, a modern Western perspective. And again, for many years, I didn't even realize I was doing that. I'm glad that I did learn that along the way, and I figured that out. And it did give me a little bit of different perspective. It did help me. It shed light on some things. So I just think it's, short video. Just, not going to go too far off into a tangent here, but yeah, I think it's important that, at least for those who might see this video in the Western world, we have to realize that we come from a specific time, a specific culture. We're raised with, to look at the world in a specific way, and in ways that ancient people just did not look at the world. So, hope that helps, and how everybody breaks that down is obviously it's going to be different person to person. But it is it is a piece of wisdom, a piece of a life experience I wanted to put out there, because it was very beneficial to me, when I came across it. And I don't even remember when. It was years ago. It was just one of those, I guess, burning bush moments, that I had. I will say this, that it happened because I continued to learn and do my homework and continue to just dig. But I remember, one day I just kind of realized that, Jeff, you're looking at this through modern Western eyes. And that's okay. Obviously, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with that. I just need to be aware of it. Again, because it'll open doors to perspectives that I may not have considered before. God bless.